5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miggs for the WDMA, bringing you marketing news from around the world every day. Today, we are going to talk about AI and potential uses in junk mail.
So I did a little better job on my Reels.ai website, and I got the pauses in there with some periods and stuff to slow them down a little bit. I thought it was pretty good, to be honest. But I'm not that fussy, obviously. So you can probably hear the coffee perking in the background. So let's get over to the real news. Okay, three big things. No, let's go first to this one. Marketing efficiency in a recession. Now, I haven't talked much about recession because I don't like the idea of thinking about it. I've worked through 5 or something recessions. I was working in the 70s, and nice to see you, Ted. And I was working in the 70s, and these times feel a lot like that. We used to stamp our marketing brochures from manufacturers with all prices increased by 10% or all prices increased by 20% or whatever. Jack Miller told me that when they were in the 70s and they had rampant inflation, what they decided to do, they were getting killed because they only mailed a catalog once a year. And he said, we thought the customers would hate us, but we decided that we had to mail like flyers once a month because the prices were changing so fast. It had nothing to do with wanting to be in front of our customers. It had to do with, and we thought it was going to be ridiculously expensive, but we just couldn't keep holding the line on prices when inflation was so crazy. And so they decided to do smaller monthly mailings. And he said that was what really triggered our business taking off. That's something interesting to think about. He said all of a sudden we went from a book that was on the shelf that customers thought about when they couldn't find it anywhere else, a supplier of last resort. All of a sudden, when we were on their desk every month, they started thinking, hey, I could buy more from these guys. And all of a sudden, we were their main office supply provider instead of the third tier or something like that. He said that was the big breakthrough for him, was the high inflation period in the 70s. Okay, so I've been through, 4 or 5 recessions, and a lot of times part of the reason that I think our business picks up often is because people are looking for new ideas. They realize if they just keep on the way they've been, it's not going to fit the current climate. So here's Jonathan Mills. I don't know what a BD strategist is. Business development, I suppose, maybe, So he's a salesman. Anyway. So he says he's not going to tell you how to market your business in this article, but he's going to discuss a way to save your company money during a recession. This is not what I expected. What I expected this to be was how to make your marketing spend more efficient. In other words, how to put your ads in places that make more sense. And for that, mail is just gangbusters, because you can measure it so well, and we'll get to that in a second. But that's not what he was thinking. He said most companies reduce their willingness to spend on risky ventures and in general a desire to cut costs. Okay? And I could talk all day. I was talking with somebody that they were spending way 6 figures with Google every month. And when you think about, if you're spending $5 a click with Google, then and Google says their bounce rate's 50%. So half the people that click never click anywhere in your website. You take them to the landing page or the website, and 50% just leave. They look around a little bit and they leave. And you say, whoa, yeah, but if I have a fancy landing page that I take them to that really shows them what they're looking for, well, then for sure I'll do better. Actually, landing pages, according to Google, the bounce rate's 80%. So take that number, that $5, and either double it to 10 or quadruple it to 20, something in that neighborhood, right? And that's what you're really spending per qualified lead or per interested interested person from Google. Okay, never mind how many of those might be bots and all the rest of it. Okay, but you know, once you get to that number, whether it's $10 or $20, once you get to that number, now you're going to get a 1 or 2% response. Most of my digital friends will tell me, you know, it's not too bad once you get to that point, once you get past the bounce rate. But for $1, I can put a beautiful catalog in the hands of millions of prospects, and we can generate so much more business for you, you know. And I'm not saying that it'll pull 2%, right? But if you mail 100,000 pieces, you know, you're likely to get what, 50,000 orders? No, 5,000 orders. You know, that's a 0.5%, I think. So not too bad. You know, think about that. Anyway, that's what I thought he was going to talk about. But I'll stick that in there. But what he says is that businesses that of their clients usually have internal marketing teams doing the exact same thing that they're doing. Looks like my encoder is breaking up, but it'll come back, I think. Some strange stuff I'm seeing on the... Ted, do you see strange stuff where it's all breaking up? Yeah, and it looks like everything's working. I've got a nice bright green dot. Okay, well, anyway, and what Jonathan says is that a full-time employee has a substantially higher business cost than an outsourced or fractional solution. Good point. Yeah, probably. And he says your marketing department is doing all these things, trying to do them all at once, and maybe not doing them so well, right? So these activities fall on a few people who aren't subject matter experts in these categories, right? And fractional solutions mean that you can hire solution providers who bill by the hour and deliver outcomes across the marketing needs at substantially lower costs. I think there's something to that. And I think what Jonathan's really suggesting is that maybe the answer is to teach your internal marketing people how to be managers of external vendors to get the job done. But this was the most interesting part, I thought. Jonathan said, I was having dinner with an executive at one of the world's largest entertainment companies, and he was concerned about his lack of internal leverage. Early on in my consulting career, we got a client. We got Amoco Oil, but not their light oils division. That was the gasoline division. But we got their tires, batteries, and accessories. It turned out that this division of Amoco was a $100 million business, give or take. And they were required to chip in 6% of that for IT. And they wanted to do some things where they had more efficient contact with the gas stations so that they could keep their inventory well stocked and tell them about specials and those kinds of things, and have them prepare for seasonal changes like stock up on batteries and snow tires, in November, or instead of waiting until everything breaks loose in December. And so they went to their IT department, and the IT department basically just laughed at them because, gasoline had like 3 SKUs. These guys had like 10,000. And so the IT department didn't support them at all. They basically ignored them. So Vic Hunter knew some. Actually, he was working with James Avery Craftsman, which was a jewelry company. That was one of his clients. And James down in San Antonio or Kerrville knew a guy at Amoco. His brother was at Amoco and was complaining about how they just had no leverage. And so Vic said, well, why don't you give us 3%? Okay, that's $3 million a year. That's nothing to sneeze at. And he said, we'll basically build whatever you want. Not only that, but we'll set up a team of telemarketers that can call on your little gas stations, because it's not worth it sending a salesperson to every little gas station all the time. And they liked that idea. And then we figured out a way to integrate, to have the salespeople to manage their time and have them go at the bigger gas stations, because even in gas stations, though NBL said they all had 8 to 10 employees, Actually, if you looked at their sales, those truck stops on I-80 had massive, massive sales. The 80/20 worked even in gas stations where you think that, oh, they're all just little corner businesses. Absolutely not. The top 1% did 25% of their business or 20% of their business. And so we were able to maximize the time of the sales force in going and talking to those large accounts and finding out their needs and those kinds of things. And then we were able to service the small accounts with outbound telesales and mail. So we were able to then leverage that concept of tailoring the marketing spend to the potential or the actual sales of bigger accounts with Salesforce and outbound telesales and mail, and the smaller ones with just telesales and mail, and the smallest ones with just mail. And it was a very, very efficient concept that got built in the early 80s. Okay, and so then we were able to take it to Deluxe Check, and from there it went to 3M, and from there it went to HP. And at HP, I think Tom Siebel ran across it and relabeled it CRM. But if you've ever heard of CRM, now you know some of the origins of it. And I've reached out to Tom. I think we're still connected on LinkedIn, but he doesn't do LinkedIn as much as I do. Anyway, so there are ways of being more efficient. But, it's not just throwing it all at the wall. And so you can gain more leverage with outsourcing. I think that's true. Here's, to balance out the recession talk, here's 3 big things pessimists tend to ignore, by Morgan Housel, the Collaborative Fund, and The Hustle. Okay, despite the record of things getting better for most people most of the time. So through history, humanity has had basically progress. Pessimism isn't just more common than optimism, it also sounds smarter. Yeah, better watch out. Better not cry. Better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming. Okay, pessimism is intellectually captivating. It also, I think, gets more news coverage, draws more attention than the optimist who often looks oblivious to the current situation. Optimism sounds like a sales pitch, while pessimism sounds like someone trying to help you out. Especially nowadays when bad news is so rampant. But there are 3 big things the seduction of pessimism tends to ignore. One is, being an optimist doesn't mean you think everything will be great. It means you think things will work out in the long run. Things will work out in the long run. I'm impressed with, like, my friends from Lebanon. That country's basically been in civil war for like 30 years, or maybe 40 years, and yet they go back there and they visit their friends when things calm down for a while, and they, family back there, and there are beautiful spots in Lebanon. It was the Riviera of the Middle East for a long time. Anyway, even if the short run is constant chain of setbacks, surprises, hassles, and challenges. The second one, and this is probably the best, people adapt. If you extend every negative trend indefinitely into the future, things look terrible. If instead you assume that every negative trend sparks a new innovation. I took a few minutes last night and I was watching about how we can capture the moisture in the air, even in deserts, how we can capture the moisture in the air, and that in the late 1900s, an archaeologist discovered structures, and he speculated that these things were designed to catch water in the air, to foster condensation and capture it. And so now, 130 years later, 140 years later, we're starting to actually build those things. And many of them use no electric power whatsoever, or a very, very, very small amount, unlike desalination plants. They said desalination may be a thing of the past. So very, very optimistic. And, it's basically caused by the water crisis worldwide. Something like 1 billion people don't have enough water. And it's supposed to be growing. Okay, so every good thing you now enjoy came from a bad thing that someone wanted to fix. Think about that. Okay? Finally, bad news tends to happen fast, while good news moves slowly. Over time, the good news tends to be more powerful than the bad, but the speed at which they occur assures that bad news gets more attention than it deserves. Also good. Also good to think about. So, if you're struggling right now, and especially if you're looking to the future and you think the things that you're doing won't get you through, think about outsourcing. Think about outsourcing your marketing database stuff with people who really know what they're doing. You know, think about people who've been through the recession. Maybe some old guy knows something that you haven't thought about, knows how to implement it, right? And I'm not saying fire your people. I'm saying teach them to work with suppliers for more leverage, for economical leverage. Have a great day. Like and share. Your friends will know you're smart. Bye-bye.